Welcome to the Stories of Starting podcast. I'm Heather Boyd. As a self-employed artist for the last 30 years, I'm fascinated with people's passions and creative projects. In this series, we discover how people like you have started new projects by thinking outside the box, going with the flow, and tapping into their childhood imagination. So, we're here today with Ben Cardilli.
On this day.
In
this year.
Guinea pig for podcast number 2. There we go.
I'm allergic to guinea pigs, so
Oops.
I hope
hope
it's not true.
It's all good. So Ben, tell us who you are and what you do.
So my name's Ben Cardilli, and I'm a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
I guess it's hard to say that before you've been in the Just for Laughs festival, you know. But at the same time, this year I was, as you saw, I was in the audience at the Just, and they put me so many times on the Megatron, you know, the big screen, that I think I have the credit now. I think I can say I was part of the Just for Laughs festival.
Yeah,
and I had a good spot, a lot of visibility, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, so, I think I took a photo and we caught you and your friend at a perfect moment. So that was awesome.
Us giggling our asses off at something probably horribly inappropriate.
Exactly.
A lot of parents and children walking away.
True.
But we were very excited.
It happens. So Ben, this series is all about stories of starting. So, you know, how people got started in their different things. And I've known you for quite a few years. We met at, I think it was one of the very first vernissages at the Viva Vida Art Gallery.
Yes.
Which was, she opened 10 years ago in Point Claire Village. So.
It's funny because before we even met, I had bought some of your art.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah,
I remember
before we
that.
met, you were making wire cards.
Yes.
Like your cards with actual physical metal wire on top of them, and I bought one for my then girlfriend, now wife.
Oh, that's so special.
And I was like, this is really sweet. And it was a dancer.
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh,
that was
she
one
was
of the
dancing at the time,
ones.
and I got her this card, and we still have it framed somewhere.
Oh, that's amazing. And it was foreshadowing because I actually made the cake topper for your wedding.
Exactly.
So that was cool.
How crazy is that?
That was cool. But this is not about me. We're talking about you. And what I want to talk about is, so I knew you always as a musician.
Yeah.
And then my daughter Mimi and I, we used to always go to your gigs and like even little dive bars. I mean, sometimes we were the only ones that showed up.
That's it.
And I remember.
Sometimes you're still the only ones that show up.
But I remember one particular gig at Kijibi. Do you remember that? So funky little place, you know, in the back and coffee shop and stuff. But I remember at that one. You were singing, doing some acoustic or something, but I remember what struck me was your stage presence. And I remember the rapport with the crowd, and you were joking, you know, always like one-liners and jokes and stuff. And then I kind of noticed it at the different events we went to that you were, you know, you were with a band and then you did your own thing. And
they hated that. Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons I started, is because I'd be with the band and we'd have a set time and we'd have a set prepared, and like between each song I'd like introduce the song, but I'd sometimes just get into just being awkward and being weird with the audience and stuff, and they'd always be like, do that on your own time. And I was like, you know what, I will.
Oh my God. And isn't that hilarious? Because that's what struck me as being your powerful stage presence. So I just thought it was amazing. And another funny story was, I remember when you guys launched your new band Dull Boy.
Yeah.
So Mimi and I laugh about this all the time because I remember you guys set up outside the Pioneer and we were sitting there and we were watching you. And I remember you had to announce like the new name of your band. And I remember you saying with such disdain, you know, this is Dull Boy. And I just thought, oh my God, man, that's so funny. Anyways, you outgrew that band.
Yeah, I did. Pioneer, those are good days too. You know, playing music at the Pioneer. I remember so many, you know, those were the first times I ever got to like tell jokes. It was just like things off the top of my head because I was always playing. I remember one particular time the place was packed and it was a fundraiser for an animal shelter.
Oh yes.
And it was all completely full, and all these people were like, you know, hanging on every word, and it was like, I said, I'm really happy to be here. You know, it's like I really love animals. I had a burger just this afternoon. And it was delicious. And honestly, they loved it. It went over really well.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It was pretty cool.
Well, some people have this sense of humor. I mean, some people take it the wrong way, but that's their problem.
That
right?
is their problem.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was, I remember one day Mimi and I were walking down the street, and this is before I knew about your comedy, you know, that you had it in the works and everything. And I remember we stopped and we just got to chatting, you know, we just ran into each other. And I think because we were going to the Comedy Nest, and I had asked you if you'd ever gone to the Nest or whatever. And then we got to talking, and you said, oh, you'd actually done stand-up once in the States with your family.
Yeah.
And I remember I had
that was the first time I ever did stand-up was in San Jose. I was there for a wedding.
Yeah.
And I had been threatening to do it for years, and I was out there, and I figured it was a good opportunity, you know, because you know, not a lot of people I know were there, except for my family, which made it extra stressful. But at least it was like, okay, if I bomb there, they won't tell anybody.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
But it actually went pretty well. You know, it went really well for a first time, and I was really happy about. You know, I threw together some jokes last minute. It was a really great place, let me on stage, and so it was really neat.
Oh, that's amazing. Good way to start, right? Just in a strange place and all that. Yeah. And so tell me about the first time you performed in Montreal.
First time in Montreal was actually, I think it was at the Comedy Nest. I think it was the week I got back, I emailed and I was like, I need to get on. And so I tried it out, and it was, I think it went really well for what I was expecting. You know, I was nervous about doing it because they have usually a lot of people show up. But I was really sick that day. Okay. And somehow it was perfect because I was really sick, but I took a lot of drugs to get through it. And so even though I was like nervous, I was kind of like defeated and just very like
got nothing to lose,
down from like the downers, and I was kind of just like, all right, I'm gonna try this, you know. And since like actually the first couple acts that went up, like I found it was very quiet and people weren't really responding, and that kind of that took the edge off, because I was like, all right, well, at least if it doesn't go well, it's like this is how it goes, you know. But it actually went better than I thought, and I think I still have a couple of those bits I used in circulation today. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I remember Mimi and I went to see you, and that was so it's so exciting.
It's exciting. It's nerve-wracking, but it's fun.
That's it. Well, you've certainly broken the ice, because not only do you do gigs, but you organize gigs. So tell us about the gigs that you organize.
So that's something I do because, you know, I was always producing shows when I was in the bands. Like, we tried to put on our own shows. I think it's like you get a little bit more control of the acts that are on and what happens. And so it was easy enough. I knew the steps, so I started producing shows in comedy like right away. Because I figured that's also just a good way to contribute to the community, you know, to help other people get stage time. You know, you're always getting stage time. People are always so generous putting you on their shows, and you just want to be able to give back. But it's hard to run a show like comedy. I realize it's harder to get people to a comedy show than to a music show, because it's still, you know, it's still an art form that's kind of highly misunderstood by a lot of people, and you know, local comedy and is very much people trying new things, and sometimes it doesn't go over so well, and sometimes you have really great gems and stuff, and it's like so it's kind of it's give and take. And if you've ever had like a bad comedy experience as an audience member, you know, it's just you there, and it's like awkwardly, it's like the difference is like music, you play a song, and even if you don't do it that well, you get off stage and people will probably still have the ability to come and tell you they liked it. Yeah, true. Whereas like if you do a comedy gig and nobody laughs, come off stage, people can't really be like, great show, buddy. You know, it's like clearly that didn't go how you wanted it to go. You know, so it's really suffering. And the comedians, they build up a thick skin to it, you know. That's why I host an open mic, because it really builds up your skin, because most people don't give a crap. But when it's to a bar, but when they come to a comedy show, it's you know, you build a thick skin, but the people in the audience don't understand it yet, so they're like looking at you fail, and they're like, this guy's gonna maybe jump off a bridge today. You know, like, this is terrible. They're like, I could never do that. And you don't realize that, like, for most of us, it means nothing. You know, it's like, all right, well, I tried that thing, it didn't work, I'll rearrange it or throw it out. And you know, but that's why, like, when you go to a show, you want to give your best stuff so that people don't feel so awkward for you, you know? You get kind of caught doing the stuff that works.
That's it. And I just find it's hard to get people out to events in general. Like even when I've organized workshops and, you know, other events and things like that, you know, people, especially now with Netflix specials and all this, people are just, you know, it's, you know, easier for them to sit on their couch and stay home. And I think, and there's also, you know, some people don't know how easy it is to go to a show as well, and how affordable it can be as well. Like we got hooked on the Comedy Nest because of Newbie Tuesday and things like that, and I think people just aren't really aware. But
and you know what you're getting into. You guys go to the Comedy Nest, like a Newbie Tuesday. It's up and down.
Exactly.
You know? But even on a weekend, sometimes it's up and down. It depends. Like I was at the Just for Laughs show last night, and there was a bunch of big names from all over the country and in the States, and the crowd was still like not totally sold on. If you're not a household name,
it's true.
You don't have that immediate trust.
It's
you
true.
know? So even if you're like a touring comic and you're a professional, like they still get, you know, rough crowds.
Yeah, oh definitely.
You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And even household names get rough crowds. You know? And it really depends on the environment and how it works. And
no, it's true. It's true. And one question I always like to ask people is about, is there anything from your childhood or your youth that would have foreshadowed you going into comedy, other than just being a wisecracker sometimes?
Yeah. But, well, I guess in high school, that was kind of my. Not even really. I guess it's just something that develops, you know. I don't like awkward silences.
Yeah.
I don't tend to like being in political conversations or uncomfortable disagreements. So that was always my thing of just being like, let's make this stupid.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
And everyone's like, haha, I just like to cut the tension. And that was like that was kind of a defense mechanism of mine until... You know, I always threatened to do comedy because I'd see things and come up with just funny wordplay about things, and I'd always have things written down. And then one day it was just about, you know, I was watching Netflix.
Yes.
And, you know, I think that Netflix has gotten a lot of people into comedy, just showing the backside of how everything works, showing the underbelly of it all. Yeah. And so you kind of... you see that it's doable, and this is how to start.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really super familiar with comedy even growing up. Like, I remember when we were kids, the one memory I have is like standing. These days, in those days it was like a record player. So I remember being in my basement with a bunch of friends, listening to a George Carlin record, like the real LP, the 7 words you can't say on television, which is probably like an ancient classic now. But that was sort of, you know, that Saturday Night Live and other things. And
Me too. Saturday Night Live was a big one.
Yes, definitely. And you know, the other one that I used to love, me and my friend Sharon used to watch it. You maybe never heard of it. It was called Make Me Laugh. Oh my God, it was like this classic show from like late 70s, early 80s. And basically they get a celebrity on, and then they get I think it was a regular person and 3 comedians. And so they get the regular like contestant just to sit in the chair, and then the comedians would each have a turn trying to make them laugh. They'd have a minute to make them laugh. Howie Mandel was on it, like all these like people. And we they played it at like 12 midnight or something on Friday nights, and it was hilarious, like stupid humor, you know, and that's all it takes. Like, it doesn't have to be intellectual.
Like I think the first actual stand-up comedians I ever listened to were probably like Dane Cook and Louis C.K. You know, that was popular when I was in high school, and we were all like referencing the bits and like trying to tell them again to our friends, and it was never as funny, you know. But still, that was kind of like the. That was it. Like and we didn't have, like, when I was in a band, you know, we were touring, and we used comedy actually as a tool. It's funny because when you're driving overnight, it's exhausting, and like if you listen to, usually everybody's sleeping except the driver, but if you listen to comedy instead of like music that kind of trudges along and lulls you listen to comedy, you're always laughing, you're awake.
Oh, that's cool.
You can't fall asleep, so we put comedy on, and even the guys that are sleeping would be in their sleep like like they can't like fall asleep, they just like crack up. So
that's
it's
hilarious.
Really
you never
it's
ran
really
out
powerful
of gas?
How much you can't like help but respond to something when it's really well written and paced, and it's just it hits you in that place where you're you're vulnerable to it.
It's true. So it's true. Well, I know often we'll quote different comedians. Like I know Harrison has a few jokes that we just like always reference that when certain situations come up, and it's just like it's like this little subculture language almost type of thing, which is like, super interesting.
And you all know this is the same jokes. It's just about laughing about the. Not taking things too seriously.
Exactly.
It's easy because when you adopt that entire perspective for your whole life. I mean, sometimes it's annoying.
Yeah.
For people when you really don't take things seriously too much. It's hard to not let that slip into your life when you have that bit. You have that. Or you're thinking of a good bit, but maybe it's not a good time to say it because it's like this situation reminds me of how this could be funny, but then you say it and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
That's it. I love that terminology, the bit. You use that a lot. I like that. That's fun.
That's like the. It's hard when you have you're sitting in a bar and you see someone laughing in the corner. Yeah. And you're just like, I wonder what got the laugh. Now everything's changed. That's it. It's like, I wonder what this guy's really killing over there. It's just like a couple of friends.
It's true. It's true. I had another question. I wanted just to touch quickly on your experience being on The Voice.
Oh, yeah.
Which is Ben was actually on the Quebec show La Voix, which is basically the French version of the Voice. And I remember
The Voice.
Yes,
that's how they do it in French. And here it's La Voix, but in France it's The Voice.
The Voice. Oh, there you go. So a couple of questions. One is how did you get into that? And then the other question would be, what kind of humor did you pull out of this whole situation?
Well, it's funny because it was really when I was going on to The Voice that I really got into the idea of, okay, this time I'm really going to try to do comedy. And then I really want to try to get up there and try to do, not at The Voice, but just go to an open mic and make it happen. And then The Voice happened and I had to put it all aside and be like, all right, well, I'll wait till this is over. But The Voice, it was interesting. It was interesting to see how TV's produced from behind the scenes and everything. Yeah. And I had a great experience. It was fun. It was a bit of a rough experience for me because just when I started the show, I got really bad acid reflux.
Oh,
so
no.
I wasn't having a good time singing.
Okay.
And I'd lost a lot of my voice.
Oh wow.
And so when I was going through the show, that's what was kind of on my mind, and I was really being just meticulous about not eating certain foods, and I was just taking care of I even quit my job or just put it aside for a while.
Yeah.
It was too. I really took it too intensely for the fact that I should have just had more fun with it and just said whatever will be. But I kind of took it as oh, this is the chance. But then I realized that the platform wasn't really for me anyway. The way it's it didn't fit the kind of music I like to make and everything. So it was a good experience, but musically it just wasn't a good fit, and I think I didn't really end up taking didn't really inspire me to go forward and do that, and I think my heart was already almost in another place already.
Well, that's it, and you've always done music very independently, so the idea of going into something like that maybe was an interesting challenge, but maybe not your scene.
Also, everyone always asks you when you're a singer, it's oh, you should do The Voice.
Okay.
And you're like, and then eventually it's just I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
Shut everybody up. I did it.
You did it. It's over. Well, I remember you had asked me at one point about making a little voice Lego set,
a little. That was a fun project. But I asked you about it in passing. As most of my projects, I just didn't get around to it. I was like, it'd be great if I could do this, and then I couldn't find this stuff, and then you gave me that beautiful gift of a Lego set that looks like me auditioning on the. That was so much. That was super cool.
I'll insert it in the video here, but that was fun.
It's right here.
Yeah, that's right.
Put it on my hands.
We'll pop it up somewhere.
This is me.
You know me by now. I can't help a project. So Ben said, I'm looking for Lego pieces to do this mock-up for a music video, and I'm like, ooh. So
it was a challenge.
I asked my friend for her Lego pieces. I went to the Lego store. I ordered the little bits online that were missing, and that was an amazing project. I loved it. Funny. That was so cool.
Next time I'm going to message you and be like, I'm looking for someone to pick up my dry cleaner.
Oh, yeah, that's not going to happen.
It's okay if you can't find anybody.
That's not going to happen. Why don't you tell us about your shows, where we can find you and all that?
So, I've been doing shows all over the city, and a lot of people have been really generous in giving me stage time, and it's been tons of fun just learning and being inspired by them. And I started my own open mic here at McKibbons Irish Pub.
We're here right
1426 Bishop every Monday night. If you ever want to try it out, the first part of the show is booked, and then the rest is kind of a free-for-all, so it's a lot of fun. If you ever want to be on the booked portion, you just have to message McKibbonsopenmic@gmail.com on a Thursday, and you'll be hopefully put in for the Monday or the Monday after, right? And then tonight on a Sunday night, end of every month, or just somewhere in between every month, we'll do a show called Comedy Confessional. And it used to be at Honey Martin's. We moved it to McKibbons, and now it's just a lot of pro comics doing their stuff. Seven minutes on the seventh day is what we call it.
That's
it's kind
right.
It's a pretty
That's
blasphemous thing, but it's a metaphor. But it's fun. Like we have fun. We try not to be too disrespectful with it, cool. It's
awesome. And the food here is amazing. We just had a chicken burger. It was so good.
Some of the best in the city. For pub fare. Pub fare, it's definitely very good.
That's amazing. And what about your music? How can we find you and your music online?
So right now I'm still coasting on. I have a couple of projects in the works. I've kind of put it aside for a little bit, but you can always find me at benalexandermusic.com.
Okay.
And I have all my projects. I have some videos there and a couple of recordings also on Bandcamp, and there's a couple of songs on Spotify, but there's a couple of Ben Alexanders on Spotify, so you'd have to differentiate.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
But everything on benalexander.music.com is legit.
Cool. And you have a few projects on the go with the music?
I have a record that I've been sitting on for 2 years that I haven't put out yet, and I'm just wondering on when would be the right time. But I really want to be back in that headspace where I can focus in on it and perform it once it's out. So it's going to be a little bit, I think. But I'm slowly starting to do a couple gigs here and there again. Cool. Got a couple fun ones coming up.
Oh, that's awesome. And anything else you want to say about your comedy or life in general?
I mean, I'm very lucky to be in the position where I am. I have a lot of support. I'm in a very happy relationship where we're both hard workers and we both have our own thing in our life that we're pursuing, and we support each other. And it's harder for some people than others because of that. So I'm just really lucky that no matter I'm working really hard, and I have that support system. So it's really, even though I use her in every joke, and I make fun of her incessantly, it's very, I appreciate the. I think a lot about how that's, without that it would be harder.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I'm just grateful, and
That's awesome. Well, we're
do stuff.
Grateful to have you, and anxious to follow your comedy career. Maybe you'll be next at Just for Laughs. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe I'll quit next week. Yeah. Let's see how it goes, eh?
Okay, so thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bye.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you. That was awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in to Stories of Starting. Until next time, always remember, your story matters.